two fantasy relevant teams that we should discuss really quickly. I think everybody that you thought was in play is in play. The guys who were on the bubble were like Devin Singletary, um, McKenzie. Some people were not so sold on Gabe Davis, and
Come on.
maybe I don't know what their aim is anymore. I mean, he only had 5 targets, but again, scored the touchdown. Just shows that he's just like a part of the game plan.
Dynamic.
Yeah, dynamic playmaker. Um, on the Ram side of the ball, we didn't see any Allen Robinson. Um, 13 carries for Henderson, and Cooper Cup had more targets than he had carries.
It's not good.
Um, Singletary had 8 carries to Josh Allen's 10. So again, like Allen's leading the way rushing for the Bills. Nothing new there. Um, yeah, I think this game was pretty much like status quo outside of, like we said, those guys in the bubble. Singletary is like a low end play. Robinson is like a sit and see what happens. Um, is there anybody else that you wanted to touch on in this game?
Um, no, I just think next week Darrell Henderson is almost must start. Um, I mean, Cooper Cup versus Justin Jefferson, you can debate that like all you want, but they're very clearly 1-2. I mean, he's gonna get peppered this year. Um,
Yeah,
Tyler Higbee is actually pretty interesting because he was pretty involved. Um, but yeah, I mean, it about sums up that game. Josh Allen's incredible. Diggs is great. Status quo.
yeah. Higby did have 11 targets, which is notable, but that's like I'm not ready to start him next week. We got to see like kind of how this offense shakes out. It could just be a ton of Cooper Cup and someone different behind him every week.
Yep.
Uh, that we just don't know who it is. But definitely agree with like we're playing Henderson until we see that Akers is like breaks 5 touches. He only got I think he got 3 carries and a target, maybe not even a target. Um, so yeah, just Cooper Cup, man, and like even Stafford didn't look very good. I wouldn't start him if I didn't have to.
Yeah. Stafford and Trey Lance are the two quarterbacks that have concern, and we'll get to Trey Lance. But I mean, those guys. I mean, Stafford just didn't look like himself from last year. But what do I know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think he just looked like I think he looked like his normal self. Honestly, he's like a little bit of a gunslinger, and just he's going to let it rip sometimes. And
Yeah.
he made a few bad throws. Is really what happened. And then a couple unfortunate plays led to turnovers. Like I think mid-season form, those plays aren't turnovers. This game could turn out differently because of that. But they hung in there with them until halftime, and then wheels kind of fell off in the end. But a couple big plays by the Bills just kind of put them away. And anyways, I think we should move on to your boy Lance. That just brought up the Niners and the Bears game. I was able to watch that game,
Yeah. Okay.
and it was a sloppy game. I don't want to make excuses for Lance, but a sloppy game made it tough on him. Nobody looked good in the game, in my opinion. I mean,
Nope.
um, the Bears' running game looked pretty good. Both Montgomery and Herbert looked good. The O line looked, like they were giving them some push. Um, so that I think Montgomery might be a little bit of he might have got undersold in the drafting process.
Yeah. I mean, he was sliding to a pretty ridiculous like ADP by the end of summer because nobody like wanted part of him. But I mean, he's gonna be himself. Um, he's
Yeah,
about the definition of a standard RB2. Not exciting, but I mean, playable every single week. Um, but you know that game was bad when the only thing that is remembered is Justin Fields sliding, like after they win. Like that's been like replayed like 1,000 times, and it's like that game was just like it was just shitty. Like there like it wasn't much competition. Or no, not competition. Um, Trey Lance didn't have a chance to be competitive rather. Because I mean, dude, it was awful. Like the sidelines were like crooked. I mean, it was just awful conditions. I don't take too much away from it. It's definitely not a good look for Trey Lance, but it's largely explainable. So
Yeah, it was just a sloppy game. It's one of those games that when you look back on it, we'll end up throwing it out because it was just that bad of conditions, and you shouldn't expect any kind of offensive production in that. With what I said about Montgomery, looking good, quote unquote, he did have 17 carries, but only got 26 yards.
mm-hmm.
I mean, they got blown up in the backfield quite a bit, but on the plays where he was able to like at least get ahead of steam going, he was able to make some cuts and make some guys miss in the sloppy conditions. I think that this team is just going to run is going to be, Matt Eberflus was the defensive coordinator of the Colts, comes from Frank Reich, who was a run first coach. Um, he's going to bring that defense run first mentality to this team, and that's just going to it's going to lend itself to what do we have 28, 36 carries this week.
A whole lot of
30,
carries. Yeah.
between Herbert, Fields, and Montgomery. I mean, Herbert got it done in the end on 9 carries. He ended up getting the touchdown. He was explosive, um, but where I think we're just going to see a lot of that, a lot of different run looks, and they threw it to 8 different receivers,
And
spread the ball around.
yeah, and
Everything off of play action, short dink dunk passes, run after the catch, and the occasional deep shot, which Fields wasn't afraid to take. But go ahead. You have something?
no, yeah. That was great, but I feel like there's a point to be made on the other side of the ball about running. I mean, so Eli Moore goes down. Um,
Mhm.
Jeff Wilson is the waiver wire claim, but I mean, Trey Lance could legit lead his team in carries now. I mean, he has 13 rushing attempts, and I know that's partly a product of weather, but I mean, they're gonna spread this around to Debo, who gets 8 more rushing attempts. We all thought regression was coming, but I guess not. Um, Jeff Wilson gets 9, Brandon Ayuk gets 1. I just feel like they're gonna spread it around, but as Trey Lance is there with no Elijah Mitchell, I feel like we're getting 9 or 10 attempts as a floor per game, um, for a guy like Lance. So, um,
Easily.
if he's in there, he's gonna be fancy productive. But I mean, what do you feel about Trey Lance getting benched? Like, is that a possible scenario? What's going on here?
I mean, not after this game. He would have to look bad for quite a few games. I think this is. I think he did well considering. He did
Yeah,
what he could. He spread the ball around to a lot of different players, and you know he ran the ball well. They had some design run plays for him as well. So, like you said, the 8 to 10 rushing attempts per game, I think is easily happening. The same for Debo. 8 attempts in this game, maybe a little on the high side on a per game basis for him because of the weather. But he's looking to hit 300 rushing yards to get his bonus. Like that, and the coaching staff put that in there because they want him to run the ball too, and they want to give him that incentive to say, "Yes, give me the ball," instead of, "No, I don't want to take the ball." Um,
that's a good tidbit. Yeah.
So Debo is gonna get the attempts. If it's not through the air, he's gonna get attempts on the ground. He's gonna be one of the safer fantasy plays as long as he's healthy. Um, and productive in here with a touchdown. He had a fumble, but a lot of people did in this game with this weather.
I mean, he has 11 points just on the ground, and then 8 targets on top of that. I mean, that's just a whole lot of opportunity for a guy like Debo, and that's in a game that didn't have a whole lot of wealth to spread around, anyways. So
It is. It's like running back usage at the wide receiver position with that
just
many
inverse.
opportunities,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
Pretty cool. You want to move on to the Browns and Panthers?
Let's do it.
So I didn't get to see this game, but I'll look at the box score and see that Nick Chubb ran the ball 22 times. Um, Brissett had 34 passing attempts, 11 rushing attempts to Hunt. So about the split that you would imagine, pretty 50-50. Stefanski wants to keep defenses honest so that his run game can be effective. Uh, do you have anything to take away from this game? Did you see it or?
Yeah. So I watched a little bit because I had vested interest in Nick Chubb, and then the Baker narrative also was slightly compelling. But I mean, For me, it's Kareem Hunt, air quotes, vouches 2 touchdowns, from Nick Chubb. Sure, he made great plays. I think one of those touchdowns was like a nice like 20 yard like off the edge. So Hunt plays well, but I feel like Nick Chubb got a little bit the short end of the stick here. I mean, he was breaking off 7, 8, 9 yard runs all game. I believe his game long was like 25 yards, and he averaged like 6 yards a pop on 22 carries. So it was pretty consistent. Um, but I mean, if they're gonna be weekly plays, I still prefer Nick Chubb. Um, on the Panthers, I mean, I'm not really concerned about CMC. Whenever he got the ball, he was dynamic, and he's gonna get the ball a lot more. I mean, you gotta think he still scores. The only thing for me is DJ Moore, who was sliding up into the third round rather, and he only gets 6 targets. He's third on the team in receiving yards, and it wasn't too promising there. So I guess those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm curious about the Robbie Anderson versus DJ Moore situation. I think it could have been um, was more lining up against Denzel Ward more often, and maybe Baker knows that team is going to want to stay away from their best guy, which is the only thing that would come to my mind when in terms of the low target total. Um,
Yeah,
McCaffrey only had 14 opportunities, which just seems silly. Um, he should easily be getting close to 20.
yeah, and I mean he had that like 25 yard like fumble return off Baker. He like scored like jumping over like he looked pretty dynamic and great. I feel like that's gonna be like upwards of 2 dozen, going forward. I mean that just feels like a total outlier like in the grand scheme of Christian McCaffrey.
I just wish I could talk to somebody who saw the game. I mean, I'm curious if Baker Mayfield was just like kind of overlooking McCaffrey to go downfield more often to, because he really wanted to stick it to the Browns kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, that
I
would
don't
make
know, just
sense.
taking the shots instead of playing it safe. And then that's why you end up with Robbie Anderson with the most targets because he's, probably just running nines most of the
Yeah,
time
I
with zero
I
reps.
I do know that Cleveland went up like pretty big. I think it was like 20-7 or something.
Okay,
So
and they had to come back.
so they were throwing a lot and probably downfield. So that could be the explanation. But I mean, either way, it's pretty baffling usage for what we're usually used to for CMC.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that Matt Rule needs to get it together quick because another showing like this, with like odd usage and ineffectiveness, isn't going to last very long with an owner who wants to win now and he's showing it with like the moves he's making.
Yeah. I mean, these are the games that you got to capitalize on too. With a Browns team with no Deshaun Watson. I mean that's yeah that's a very winnable game. I mean we'll see how the Browns play, but that's a winnable game.
To me, that was just, you know, Rule got out coached right there.
Yeah,
You know,
I could see that.
Stefanski was down his quarterback, gave you the one that he would have started,
Yeah,
and was like, I'll still beat you on defense and running game.
that's crazy.
And you're paying your running back more than I'm paying mine.
Insane, insane.
Um,
But yeah, what's
Saints Falcons.
oh yeah, let's do that.
So Jameis, like, come on back to fantasy Providence,
I he's just so fun to watch, isn't he?
right? He had a 111 QB rating, so I mean that's like got to be the highest ever in his. Like 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Just like it's like who is this steady Jameis Winston,
I mean, just this looks like a Kirk Cousins stat line. At
right?
269, 2-0, pretty efficient. But no, I mean, uh, he was great. It was great seeing Michael Thomas get back on the board. Jarvis Landry had a big game. Chris Olave made the absolute most of his. Well, I think he's listed as 4 targets, but he had the 2 point conversion as well. So I think it's one more than that. But I
Okay.
mean, everyone plays decent. Um, I mean, it's just a really fun game. I mean, there was the 2 point conversion, and then I mean the Falcons won by or and the Falcons end up like blowing the lead again, lose by one. I mean, it was just a fun game overall. You got any
Yeah.
thoughts about it?
No, other than like this was one of the games that a new team that we were waiting to see, like kind of what the offense looked like. Kamara got nine carries, but four targets. Another like low usage for a workhorse guy. 13
Yeah.
attempts for Kamara. You would have liked to see closer to 20 again, but this another one where the ball is well spread around. I mean, um, nine
What?
targets for Landry, eight for Thomas. A bunch of other guys get one. Uh,
Taysom Hill gets one.
Taysom Hill gets one. He had four carries. He got a touchdown.
Oh man, he's all right. This is like I, I feel like Taysom Hill is built for like the Golden Goat League. It's like plus points for carries, plus points for quarterbacks, plus points for tight ends. Like this may just be wish casting, but I'm gonna keep starting him at tight end because he put up 18, and obviously like this is an outlier, but he scores points in so many ways. Like he's just rosterable in these big leagues. He's a very interesting asset.
That is quite the take on Taysom Hill for that league. Like it makes sense with those bonus points the way they are. It's so funny. Um,
Cause I mean like I had Irv Smith. Irv is projected for like 12. Taysom projected for like 4. Irv puts up the goose egg. Like guys on the waiver wire or like of that caliber are susceptible to that. I doubt Taysom Hill is gonna put up a goose egg. Like he'll have one carry for 1 yard and that's a point. Or he'll have like I
I
mean
mean,
he's gonna get there somehow. I feel like so.
in
We'll see how that happens.
game one, he has a 57-yard rush for a touchdown. I mean, he's going to get more opportunities on that alone, right?
Right.
From the
And
coaching staff's perspective, it's like this guy scored us a long touchdown. Let's see if he can do it again.
and I mean let's be real. I mean just a fun guy to own. Taysom Hill. Come on now. I'll watch a
Hey,
game for him.
that's awesome. That's awesome that you get to start him in that league.
Right. But
Uh, Other
what
side
is
of the
that?
ball, Horde, man, 22 carries. That's pretty amazing. Five
Yeah.
five targets on top of that. 27 attempts for Cord. I mean, that's Derrick Henry usage.
Yeah. Yeah. That's. I mean, he ages backwards. It's pretty insane.
I mean, I don't know how many other games he can go like this. I think that's high for someone that we saw the wheels, not come off at the end of the season last year, but he definitely slowed down. And
But I mean,
at this rate, I don't know if he can keep it up for more
it,
than
it,
8 games.
nobody got any other carries though. Like it's Mariota with 12 and him with 22, and then nobody else. Like
Yeah,
it's he's so interesting.
yeah, he's gonna. Like I said, I think he's gonna get all the usage until he hits the floor. When that happens, I don't know. I would say without injury, he would slow down by the eighth week. But I mean,
Oh,
that's
only time
already
will tell.
what's the 240 carries in 8 games at with 30 a game.
That's reasonable.
That's a lot.
No, but no, I like I get that. Um, are we concerned about Kyle Pitts at all?
No, I mean 7 targets.
Yeah, I agree.
He just didn't happen for him this game. He's going to keep getting opportunities. I know don't have any pits because I wasn't into taking somebody on a bad team in the third round.
It wasn't a great pick, I don't think.
And but I mean I get why people would do it for the volume. But I went down that road last year owning McLaurin, and a guy with a ton of volume on a bad team was not fun to own.
Oh
Uh,
man.
I'd rather have Gabe Davis on the best passing offense, but only get 6 opportunities a game. I don't care. Those 6 opportunities are going to be much more valuable.
Well, damn. Yeah, yeah. Whenever I try to talk myself into Terry McLaurin, I realize I've owned him and I've had the same argument in my head a lot of times, and it's always a painful one. Um, yeah,
We
that's a
could
good pick there.
transition to that game. I mean, that was one that I had a lot of investment in. Like, um, I'm big on ETN this year, and then, a fumble turns into, he only has 4 carries, man.
Mm.
J Rob coming off the Achilles gets 11 totes. Um, the ball's pretty well spread around in this game. I mean, the two big free agent signings, Kirk and Zay Jones, got some got the most targets with 12 and 9. Um, but Lawrence, 42 attempts, and that's what I would have expected with this new coaching staff. Um, so that was nice to see. He wasn't super efficient, only a
Yeah,
75 QB rating, but this is a defense first team with Ron Rivera. He's not going to make it easy on you in any way, shape, or form. Not with a full slate of guys, full healthy team.
oh for sure.
So I wasn't surprised to see this game be close, but um, I did think that the Jaguars would somehow come out and be able to score more points than that. Um, do you have anything to say about this game other than ETN being a disappointment?
Yeah, so ETN obviously not great. And J Rob he's miraculous because he has the Achilles, which somehow buries K Makers, who's a former 5-star recruit, and somehow James Robinson can score 20 PPR points on. So that's pretty confusing.
On day one, like
Yeah, it's
he's
it's
like, I'm
pretty
just
ridiculous.
back, like I sprained my ankle, like it's no big deal.
It's like Frank Gore levels of like comedy of like him taking like 20 carries his 15th year. Like it's pretty ridiculous. But like that's frustrating if you're an ETN owner. But what's more frustrating? Well, it's not frustrating right now, but it's being a Terry McLaurin owner because he he gets there ultimately. He scored me 13.8 PPR points, right? He does it on 4 targets and 2 catches. Antonio Gibson has 8 targets. Curtis Samuel has 11. J.D. McKissick has 3. Logan Thomas has 6. He's fourth in the totem pole in targets. Um, he's really, really, really talented. But if he's not a total, like every week leading the team in targets, target hog, he's not gonna get there because this team is not gonna score a lot of points. Um, so the arrow's a little bit down for him based off this, but I'm still holding out hope because we've seen him be productive with every quarterback. But this is just not a good start. Um, Gibson though, arrow's up for him. Um, 58 yards, 8 targets, 7 catches. I mean, all this talk of a committee, and then Brian Robinson gets shot somehow, and he's an RB1. I mean, that's pretty comical too in of itself. But I mean, he's back on the radar as likely an every week starter in my opinion. So that's
Pretty
all I got
much.
there.
He's a must start. I mean, again, this is a defense first team. Then you see with those teams, they want to run the ball first, control the clock. That's what they care about. So what do? They feed their workhorse 14 totes, well more than anybody else, and he's involved in the passing game as well. Make sure that they are pounding the rock and tiring that team out. That's what they're going to do. I thought Gibson was always a good pick, especially when he was sliding the way he was. I mean,
He's lit so much.
the big surprise for me is the Curtis Samuel usage. Is that going to be a weekly thing where he's
He
getting
got
that many looks?
fed.
He got so many looks, and he's that shifty guy that maybe they were finally sending him over the middle instead of using him out deep. I didn't see him play. A 6.9 yard average on his 8 catches. I think shows that he was the short area guy, and he may just be getting peppered in the slot.
Yeah, I mean Wentz with 4 touchdowns here. He was slinging the rock, 40 plus attempts, 2 ints. Um, on the passing attack as a whole, that's pretty encouraging. And they get the win, but I mean it's gonna be really interesting to see how this Curtis Samuel experience shakes out with the quarterback converted tight end Logan Thomas, with Antonio Gibson wide receiver converted quarterback, with Terry McLaurin, Ohio State's fifth ring receiver. Like this is just a fun team to look at, and we'll see what happens.
Really is. First year in the history of the Commanders, and maybe they can make it a winning one. That'd be cool.
Maybe. So yeah, what game you wanna talk about next?
I want to talk about your team, the Steelers,
All right, let's do it.
pulling off this miraculous win in overtime with a blocked kick, and then come back to make the field goal of their own. Just amazing. What do you have? Thoughts?
I like this is for some reason the main mental image sticking in my mind. Like I'm just very appreciative as Mike Tomlin as a head coach in this moment. Like it feels like he's been through 4 or 5 lifetimes of like different players, and he's just been like the constant force. And after they blocked the kick, I just like saw him like shaking his fist like Tiger Woods. I was like, man, like this is the shit.
He
Um,
just knows, like
yeah,
he visualized that play before it
yeah,
happened.
like,
He's like, yes.
and they start Mr. Trubisky. I mean, I don't have many thoughts like fantasy take wise. I mean, Jamar Chase is a total stud. Um, T Higgins kind of disappoints. Um, I think he'll be fine. I mean, Joe Mixon gets stud. I think he's gonna be fine. I think it was business as usual, for the most part. But I mean, we gotta give Mike Thomas some credit, man. He's just so awesome.
He is awesome. Um,
Najee
Fryer
goes down though.
Najee
That's
getting hurt. They say that he's okay, but they're always optimistic, aren't they?
yeah. And didn't he say he had like a Liz Frank or something, or
Yeah, at
like
least
like you don't just have that and don't say anything about it. Like that's pretty concerning. So
right.
uh,
And
he,
feels like
ugh.
he's very going to be susceptible to that, right?
Yeah, and as someone that was touted as such a safe pick, I feel like we underrated his injury concerns because he's a very safe volume play. Like if you get 4 quarters of Najee Harris, you're probably getting like 15 points just that volume alone. But I mean now he doesn't have much upside because he's on the Steelers, and he has a lot of downside. So I'd say his arrows pointing down as well, like some of these guys too.
I would agree. Even if he does play, he's going to be a shaky start, in my opinion, because this team is, they looked pretty good. They were able to play good defense, and that's what kept them in this game. Um, Chase Claypool would be the takeaway. Fryermuth also would be paying off his ADP.
Yeah, oh,
Uh,
I mean,
but
he gets fed.
Claypool's usage to me was interesting. 6 carries out of the backfield. That shows me that Tomlin saw that Najee isn't explosive.
Mm.
As great as he is and as durable as he was, uh, he's just not going to break off a home run for you.
No.
Not like Saquon can, but
Oh my
Chase
God.
Chase Claypool can do that for you, and
Yeah.
that's who Tomlin has on his team. So I think he was looking for that in the 6 attempts for Claypool. Maybe that's something we see a little bit more as they kind of figure out what's going on with Najee and may have to rely on the undrafted free agent Jalen Warren.
Oh wow. Well, um, I feel like my last takeaway here is gonna be Deontay Johnson. 12 more targets. He's this might be a hot take, but I feel like it shouldn't. Maybe he's just good. There's like a lot of people that have uh tried to say. I mean, and a lot of people that I like, but like Evan Silva's like, does it take any skill to run 5 yards downfield and turn? And I mean, Big Ben was just. I mean, like Evan Silva, like that was when he sounded his most old. He naturally sounds old, but like that was just a bad take by him. And I love Evan Silva, but I mean Deontay gets open. He's gonna get a lot of targets because he gets open, and Mitch Trubisky is gonna throw them because he's open. I don't necessarily love him at his price still or what he was going at, but I mean having a complete fade of Deontay, it's gonna be unwise. I feel like because he's gonna get his 8, 9, 10 targets. I mean he has 12 here, and in PPR he's gonna get there. So
I agree. Yeah, it's a lot, more of the same for him, just peppered with targets. And his one-handed grab down the sideline will tell you how talented he is.
right,
If you haven't seen that play, just go watch the highlights because
yeah,
it's
I, I I feel like more than any top 15, 20 receiver, he's like discredited for his talent. I mean, he's I don't know. I feel like he's good, which shouldn't be a hot take, but
yeah. I think maybe it was just the quarterback situation that soured everybody.
yeah,
If he was like on Green Bay, he'd be around end of the
right.
round one pick. Um,
A lot.
other side of the ball though, Bengals 27 rushing attempts for Mixon, 16 targets for Chase. That's
Mm.
just relying on your horses, and they did it well. Didn't really pull off the win because Joe Burrow threw 4 picks, got sacked 7 times. Didn't look great. Can't maybe it wasn't all his fault, but he went to his guys and they made plays for him and kept him in this game. Um, he loses Higgins and he ends up spreading the ball around a lot. Joe Mixon ended up with 9 targets as well. That's 36 attempts in the game. That's amazing. Um,
Oh my goodness.
Hayden Hurst gets 8 targets. Comes down with 5 grabs. That's going to show that he's reliable for Joe, and you can expect more of that if you're a tight end thirsty team. I mean, I drafted a lot of David Njoku, so I'm going to be picking up tight ends on the waiver wire this week in a lot of teams. And Hayden Hurst and Tyler Conklin are going to be at the top of the list.
Interesting, interesting. Um, yeah, I mean Burrow, he throws a lot of picks, but you like seeing 53 passing attempts. And when you have a guy like Jamar Chase or guys like Jamar Chase and T Higgins, I mean Tyler Boyd still gets 7 quality targets. Uh, I feel like Burrow's gonna be fine. Um, Mixon obviously just gets peppered with opportunity. I feel like they're both gonna be fine. But the biggest takeaway, I mean, it's Hayden Hurst for me. He gets 8 strong targets, puts up almost 10 PPR points, and if he can carve out a role on a team that's going to be throwing sometimes 53 times per game, he could just fall into 10, 12 points, and that's a very valuable tight end. So,
Yep, easily tight end one at the end of the year if you're getting 8 targets a game.
so yeah. What game you want to talk about next?
Next game we have are the Eagles and Lions, one of my favorites.
Dude,
Um,
okay. I mean,
gotta you gotta want to root for the Lions, right?
yes.
And then the Eagles are like the hot team. The Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown,
It's just the
everybody's
AJ Brown. AJ Brown's so fun to watch, and he's such a good fantasy player. Like
amazing.
he's just so good.
10 grabs on 13 targets. Just feeding the guy. 32 attempts for Hurts and 13 go to Brown. I mean, that's just an insane target percentage. Love to see it. 96 yards on the ground for Sanders. Um, Hurts gets one on the ground. Sanders gets one on the ground. Gainwell gets one on the ground. Boston Scott gets one on the ground. You know, 4 touchdowns on the ground in this game, and Jalen Hurts gets 0 passing touchdowns. Still scores like 24 fantasy.
24. Yep.
Um, I mean, you gotta love that. That's his floor game. 24 points.
I mean, you saw it. The proof is in the pudding.
If you didn't look at it that way before, let's break it down for you again. 4 touchdowns for the team, all rushing. Jalen Hurts, the quarterback, throws 0 passing touchdowns, 24 fantasy points. He is fantasy gold.
Fantasy gold.
And
I
then
love that.
I stacked him with AJ Brown in quite a few leagues, and I couldn't be happier.
AJ Brown. In non AJ Brown fashion. I mean, these are like big numbers for a slot receiver. Like 13 targets, 10 catches, 155. Like usually if AJ Brown's going 13 for 10 and 155, he's bringing in a touchdown or two. Because I mean, this is a guy making big plays near the end zone. I feel like AJ Brown is due for positive regression already in the touchdown department. Um, and yeah, he's in for a really big year if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, peppered like this, he could end up, 130 targets on the season, maybe more, um, which is uncharted territory for this talent. Um, it's going to be just fantasy bonkers. Can't
That
wait.
would be spooky.
But nobody else breaks 5 targets on the team. Spread the ball around quite a bit there. Devontae Smith gets 4 targets, no grabs. So if you drafted him as your flex, you may want to wait for a week and see what happens. I mean, only 4 opportunities. I would have expected more than that, but we'll see what happens with this team. I mean, it's a pretty close game, so only 32 passing attempts. Maybe if they fall behind early, they ramp that up, and that's what it would take for him. But you really don't want to be relying on that kind of game script
Mm-hmm.
for a team that's expected to win a lot of games. So let's keep an eye on Devontae Smith.
My only other thing is Miles Sanders. I think I'm gonna play him next week. It's always a battle. Um, on Miles Sanders, it's like a flip of a coin. But I mean, he got there both running and passing. He scored. There's been all this propaganda. I mean, Miles Sanders told you not to draft him, but I mean, let's go
He
for
could
it.
have been trolling us.
Yeah, I'm swinging again for the fences. I believe it was 16 carries off the dome. I
He
mean, he
had
was solid.
13 carries and 2 targets. I
Okay,
mean,
so 15 opportunities total,
still, yeah,
and he
that's
scored.
you're starting that on a
Yeah.
team that's going to score points the way the Eagles are. I mean, and if they're giving up 35 points to the Lions and Jared Goff,
Ooh.
um, they may be having to shoot out a lot more than we think. So talking about that side of the ball, Jared Goff, 37 passing attempts, 12 go to Amon-Ra St. Brown,
Mm.
eight to DJ Chark, and 7 to Hawkinson. Everybody else had like 3 or less. And see, Swift gets there on the ground with a touchdown, and Jamal Williams scores 2 on the ground on 11 carries for only 28 yards, but scores twice. So, people are going to be talking about him for waiver wire pickup. Oh, play him, play him, play him. I wouldn't feel safe playing Jamal Williams. That's a very low floor play for me. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, unless RB2 is like your absolute like a weakest spot by a long shot, and you're desperate. But I mean, I don't think there would be a need to play Jamal Williams, especially not over the guys that we have drafted and who may have had a down game in week 1.
Yeah. Definitely don't touch Jamal Williams. But DeAndre Swift, looks like he's gonna return early second round value if you took him there. Maybe even back end first round value. I mean, Arrow's up there, but I mean, come on. Amon Ra always open, 12 more targets. It feels like he's gotten 12 targets in every game of his career thus far. Um, yeah, he's a top 15 option, fringe top 15 option. Should get all kinds of volume, and he's talented.
Undervalued in the draft process.
I agree.
I mean, he's the volume hog that's like safe to be a volume hog because of the type of routes and the position that he plays compared to Terry McLaurin, who we wish would be that top volume hog, but he plays on the outside. He doesn't move
Yeah,
in as much. He's not close to the quarterback.
I feel like Amon Ra is similar to Deontay Johnson in a couple of ways, where they're both like insulated by a lot of volume.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like they're both undervalued plays. I guess.
Yeah, they probably should have been a lot going closer to each other.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. You're right. That's a good analogy there. Let's see. Next
Yeah, who's
game,
next?
Patriots and Dolphins.
Oh, okay,
I,
okay.
I mean, I had the Dolphins winning this game, but what happened with Mac Jones? I mean, I saw that he got hurt or something. And did he
Yeah,
leave? Did he leave early?
I don't know.
No, he had 30 attempts. Nobody else had any passing attempts. So he
Yeah,
must have played the whole
I didn't get
game.
a chance to to catch this game. Outside of like watching the highlights. So
I mean, you break down the box score, and the Patriots gave the ball to everybody. 5 different players had a rushing attempt. Nobody had more than 10. Ramondre had 8, and Harris had 9. You
Jacoby
know,
Myers has a rushing attempt as well.
he had a rushing attempt. Mac Jones had 2. Those don't count. And
Jacoby Myers has 6 targets, 4 catches, 55 yards, 1 rushing attempt. Um, he's he was someone who I was ending up with a lot of, and I didn't think I would, but it seems like I was taking him earlier than everyone was. He's like I feel like he's just gonna be a safe and like he's not a sexy play, but he's the guy that's never scored a touchdown ever. But and I mean in reality he'll probably score like 4 or 5 of them, and in those weeks he'll have like 15, 16 points because this is like about on average Jacoby Myers game, and I mean it's almost 10 points or
I
it
know,
is 10 points. I mean he's just your standard flex play,
I
with
think he's
not enough
another
upside, but
he's another one in line with the last 2 that we just talked about with Deontay Johnson, Amon
yeah,
Brown. Slot receiver, who's also the best receiver on the team.
that archetype, you know.
Yeah, same archetype. Just this team is a run first team. more so than the other two. And but is this is just like a weird box score looking at this game. There must have been a lot of turnovers or like just a lot of punting, a lot of bad play. It seems like on
Yeah.
the New England side.
Waddle
Um,
gets there. Edmonds gets
Waddle
there
had that.
kind of. Hill gets there.
Yeah, Waddle had a nice long touchdown, which got him. Hill was the focal point. He was able to get 12 targets against Bill Belichick defense. That tells you something.
Yeah.
Um, they were probably just outmatched.
He was
Uh,
open.
Not seeing this offense before, Bill Belichick was didn't really know what to expect probably, but
Right.
now he's going to game plan against what he saw, and we'll see if Hill can get 12 targets against them next time. That'll be interesting. Um,
Two.
Edmonds
Tua.
has 12 attempts, and nobody else even gets close to that.
Yeah. I was gonna say Tua isn't incredibly efficient, but this goes really well for Edmonds. I mean, he gets 4 targets, 4 catches, 40 yards. I mean, he has all the rushing volume on the team, outside of some shenanigans here and there. Um, he's probably a safe RB2. I mean, this team's gonna score a lot of points. Um, I mean, Hill opens up the offense. He almost had 100 yards in his debut. I feel like Edmonds. I mean, it's the most like normal take to like say this that he's a sleeper, air quotes. But I mean, Edmonds, he's like, this is his not floor game, but um, I mean, he gets 16 opportunities, and he doesn't do a lot with them. But 16 opportunities on this offense is very, very good, and you're gonna see a lot more of that. So
Yeah, I mean, what this showed me was how much Tyreek Hill elevated this offense.
yeah,
It brought them from mediocre to you know closing in on elite if we can get efficient play out of the quarterback. Um, and I'm not saying elite from a fantasy perspective. I'm saying elite from an NFL perspective, being able to score points at will. I think 20 points against the New England defense is nothing to sneeze at, and teams should probably watch out.
yeah.
Um, you want to talk about the Ravens and Jets?
Let's do it. Oh, Ravens versus Jets. Okay. So Devin Duvernay, the recipient of 2 touchdowns today. Rashad Bateman has the big touchdown, and that's literally it. Mark Andrews gets the 25% target share. He has a pedestrian day. This wasn't your usual 50-0 Ravens route. They struggled a little bit, but I mean, they come away with W. I guess the two things here that I want to focus on are the pecking order of targets on the Jets. Uh, Brees Hall gets there, which is great, but he doesn't get there on the ground. And Garrett Wilson doesn't get there. It's actually Corey Davis leading the way with 77 yards. And then obviously those two running backs too. But yeah, I mean, Brees Hall is the main thing. I don't know whether to be encouraged or discouraged or neither, because he doesn't do anything on the ground, and he gets out carried, and he's less efficient than Michael Carter. But I mean, 10 targets, that's nothing to scoff at. So what do you think?
I think it's encouraging for Brees Hall because I wasn't expecting anywhere near 10 targets out of him. I was expecting 12 to 15 opportunities per game. He got 16 opportunities in this game.
Yeah,
So I'm happy with that. I mean, it didn't come the way that I thought it would come, and he wasn't super efficient, but it shows that, this team, I mean, with Joe Flacco at quarterback as well, how much how much can change with a different quarterback.
almost 60 passing attempts for Joe Flacco.
Insane, and 19 of those go to the running
To the
back.
running backs, yeah, and it's not going to be 60, but it's going to be a lot more of these pretty high volume games because uh, Joe Flacco and the Jets not very good. So they're going to be behind a lot.
Didn't score a touchdown. I mean, or did they?
I
They
think
did.
Tyler Conklin got one.
They did actually. Okay, but he had 7 targets as well. That's why I'm looking at
Yeah,
him as a tight end because all I care about are targets. And they've been talking him up in camp about quarterbacks liking him, etc.
and he hits pay dirt.
He does.
But yeah, that's not my thoughts on that. I mean, I guess the
Yeah,
last thing would be Rashad Bateman. I feel like he's gonna be better in coming weeks. I mean, he ultimately gets there on his long touchdown, but only 5 targets or 4 targets, I believe.
I
Um,
was I was worried about his target totals coming in because I thought he would see a lot of Sauce Gardner, and that's probably what happened. And when when he faces lesser talents, let's see what happens.
yeah, it's. I mean, it's nothing to worry about because he got there. Just something to monitor, I guess, with him. But yeah. What do we got next?
We can move on to Colts Texans with the tie.
Yeah. The AFC South had 0 wins this weekend, and two teams play each other.
It's amazing.
But I mean, it's JT and it's Brandon Cooks for me. And Michael Pittman. I mean, it's your studs. What do you think?
The studs showed up. Naheem Hines had 6 grabs on 6 targets. I mean, Matt Ryan had 50 attempts for the Colts. You got to think that's high for them. Who
Yeah.
again, they're a run first team. The game was close, so they probably were throwing a lot in the end, which bumped that up. Um, Jonathan Taylor with 31 rushing attempts. It's just what you would have expected. 161 on the
And
ground.
7 targets. I mean he gets more opportunity than Joe Mixon. He gets 38 total,
Amazing, just totally amazing.
one on
Um,
one.
I mean, yeah, and even at the 101, that's not like the kind of usage I would have expected. Like
Yeah, that's
you've got to
that's
be
nuts.
over the moon with that many touches. Um, Texans side of the ball, yeah, like Rex Burkhead actually, was out there a lot more than Damian Pierce was, and the box score showed it. More carries, more targets. He had 22 opportunities for Rex Burkhead. Pierce had 12.
Is is Damian Pierce quite literally a 1 week wonder, or is he gonna be a thing going forward?
It's I think you know Burkhead is old, and because he's like the vet, he's getting the nod from this old coach who's going to do things like in an old fashioned way because
Hmm.
he's old. Um, so
So maybe later is what you're saying.
I think it's going to take time for Damian Pierce. He's definitely not a drop. I'm not starting him yet, and
No.
not until at least the touch totals are more in line with Rex Burkhead. He's not being out touched by Burkhead. Um, and again, this is a guy that was overdrafted anyways. You're drafting the running back on a bad team, like ahead of guys that were on a good team. If you drafted Damian Pierce over AJ Dillon, shame on you.
Oh no,
You should go home.
it's not good.
Uh, so let's move on to the Giants and Texans. There wasn't a lot to
Giants.
take away from
I
it.
watched this entire game. Okay. Um.
Tell me about
So
Danny Dimes.
Danny Dimes, he's not good. Um. So what happened with Danny Dimes is he was a hindrance to his own offense. I'm someone who is always going to advocate for passing the football, no matter the circumstance. But it was so clear that dropping back and handing the ball off to Saquon was the right option whenever they could. I mean, he was breaking off ridiculous runs out of nothing. I mean, he had like a 70 yarder. He had a 25 yarder where he just ran straight over somebody with no regard for his life. He was catching screens. I mean, he was Superman out there. That was the best I've seen Saquon in 3 years. It was absolutely incredible. Um, Words can't begin to describe my excitement as a Saquon owner. Um, and if we I got him in the second round in the late second round. If we I can't get this out. If we redrafted today, he would be a first round pick just off that. I mean he gets every opportunity that he can handle. He looks like his old self. I mean this is exactly what you want if you're a sack owner. But Kadarius Toney is the opposite. He for some reason can't get on the field. He touches the ball twice, I believe, on 2 carries, and he makes plays. He had one really good one where he broke like 2 or 3 tackles, but then he just can't get on the field. That's perplexing. Um, so those are the two sides of the coin for the Giants. Uh, yeah,
Amazing. I'm so happy to see Barkley back to his prime self.
he
Uh,
looks so good.
you know, he had more opportunities than Daniel Jones had pass attempts. So,
Mm,
right in line with what you're saying.
yeah,
Just try to limit the exposure that Daniel Jones has to the football. I mean, he was efficient with his opportunities 17 completions on 21 attempts, 81%, only had 188 yards. He threw a pick on his, four incompletions. He had one of those was a pick. I mean,
right.
uh, uh, from a, people could say objectively that this was a good game, but like you were able to watch and you can see the demeanor on the football field, and
Right.
it's just clear that Daniel Jones is not the answer for the New York Giants, and he's probably going to be gone next year.
And and that's how that's how you can tell that like Daniel Jones isn't a fit if he has three incompletions that aren't interceptions and they barely squeak out the game on a two-point conversion. Like like
Mm-hmm.
they were just giving the ball to Saquon and saying, all right, Daniel, like just don't fuck it up. And they barely squeaked it out, and he didn't mess up. It was like, I mean, that's just a really pathetic win, you know.
Basically, yeah. And so, what happened with Derrick Henry though on the other side of the ball? Did he go down at some point? I heard that he went to the tent.
He just no he didn't look like himself because like I mean like on paper you could brand this as like Superman versus Superman with like Sack and Henry, but
Mm-hmm.
he just looked like a plotter out there. I like I'm not gonna say he's washed because he is Derrick Henry, but I mean it just kind of looked like the Giants were like getting the body on him like at the line, and then he was just like he couldn't go very like very far. So I mean
Mm-hmm.
he gets there in terms of opportunities, but that's about it. But man, Kyle Phillips, that kid is incredible. He was always open, like every single route he ran, he was open. Um,
Hmm.
I see a very uninspiring 7 year career going forward from him because I mean at the end of the day he isn't unathletic like white slot receiver, and those are all things that are not good for receivers. But I mean he was always open, and it doesn't make me concerned about stuff yet. But maybe Robert Woods should be looking over his shoulder, I guess. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't high on Woods at all, but I saw that other people were and were drafting him, and I just thought that that was just like a silly thing to do. I don't draft wide receivers coming off ACLs, and I don't draft wide receivers going to new teams
or old wide receivers,
majority of the time, or old wide receivers on top of that. I
and
mean,
he's
it's just
all
like,
of them.
yeah, he's just all of those bad things that why would you bet on someone like that?
Yeah,
So he would be, for me, I would just drop Robert Woods because I don't see what kind of value he can provide for you other than, he was maybe like inside the top 10 rounds of your draft and you could maybe trade him, but I doubt it.
right.
Yeah, you might as well just drop him straight up for Kyle Phillips.
Man, Kyle Phillips is different, but
And you know that, a quarterback like Tannehill is going to lean on this guy who's getting all the separation, especially a little one who's close to the line of scrimmage.
right.
So, definitely play Phillips in PPR leagues. Easy flex play.
Check him out. Dude was always open.
Vikings Packers.
Vikings Packers.
This was the other game I got to see.
Okay,
So Rodgers, there's like no way he's going to be efficient through the air this year. Like
really.
it's going to be like the way that Rodgers plays is like, it's very cerebral, for lack of a better word. Like you have to be ready at the exact moment for the ball. Like he's always going to be throwing it before the defender can make like even like look at where he's at, like kind of
Yeah,
thing. Like you have to be in the right place at the right time. It's not about the straight physicality of catching a football. It's about the chess match. And Rodgers is doing that with a bunch of rookies and Randall Cobb. Like it is not going to happen. The value in fantasy with the Green Bay Packers is always was for this season the running backs, and that's where it's going to be. And AJ Dillon was the hugest value. He led the backfield in attempts, and he led the team in targets. I mean, he was just the workhorse for the team.
that
And then
guy is good.
they also have this awesome guy named Aaron Jones who was like ended up being like this hybrid player. And when he and like on his limited opportunities, he looked amazing with the football. But Dylan was just like he was just like a hammer for them. You know, it was almost like vintage Steven Jackson. Um, Not quite, you know, because
Yeah.
Steven Jackson was superhuman, but he's like ascending to that type of role, like or that type of usage. You know, just like he was getting everything. He's going to be the engine for this team. I think he was like a huge steal in the draft.
So so what you just said was absolute poetry. It was beautiful. It was great. It was perfect. I wouldn't change a single word, but I'm gonna translate it for the layman. You gotta start AJ Dillon. Consider him a must start. Aaron Rodgers. I'm not gonna say probable, but potential lead running back and definite goal line back. With that upside as a pass catcher, sign me up, man. Come on.
All day. I mean, they scored one touchdown. It was a struggle to get to the end zone, but
Yeah.
the guy who got it there for them was AJ Dillon, and you could see that nobody else was getting the ball in the end zone other than Aaron Jones. If it's not one of those two guys, it's not going to happen unless it's like a long broken pass play. Like the first
And
play of the game was a freaking pearl to Christian Watson. Shout out to Ian Hartitz for that. And
Pearl.
yeah, and dude, right through his hands, immediately like puts his hands on his helmet, and Rogers, you know, you could see already shooting the looks over to Lafleur, like this is what you fucking gave me, like you douchebag, like you said he was gonna make plays, man, and like dude, it was just everything that you were waiting to see over the offseason of them losing Devontae and not addressing the situation with a veteran who was worth a damn. Um, it was just it boiled into that one moment right there, and it just solidified everybody's preconceived notions. Other side of the ball, more preconceived notions were addressed, and Justin Jefferson is the shit,
Oh
and
man.
he just went he just went bonkers on this team. Um, Jair, who gives a shit? Like
Yeah.
they moved Jefferson around so well that it didn't matter that they have like the best one of the best cornerbacks in the league on the other side. So like he is a must start. Yeah, he should have gone top three in your draft of your league. If he didn't, it was a steal. Um, like just insane. The guy was just awesome. He was open by miles.
What? Like, he had 18 yards of separation on like each side of that one. Like what the fuck? He he's on the 30-yard line and it's an entirely green screen. Like I'm looking at a green screen. I'm like,
It's
this
crazy.
is stupid. Yeah,
Um,
he's so good.
I saw like a tweet, you know, it was like about Joe Burrow's LSU senior year and all the touchdowns that he threw and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
like well, it was because of Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, of course. So like they're already the two best wide receivers in the football in the
That's
NFL, and it's
yeah.
like they
That's
just got there.
that's the best college team ever. I mean, like it has to be after what we like
Yeah,
those
solidified.
yeah, it's insane. Like those three guys alone, like are on NFL offense for like the next 15 years, and they're on the same
For real.
college team.
Yeah, it's insane. Um, but then, so the rest of the team, you know, they got scraps basically in the passing game. Cook was the next in line with targets with 5. He also had 20 rushing attempts. So 25 opportunities for Dalvin Cook. I mean, that's what I would have expected for him, and super happy to see that you know he's getting a lot of usage. Even and you know that included 8 carries for Madison just to spell him a little bit. But those high value touches were going to Cook. Watching this game, you know, it was definitely a spelling situation. It wasn't like I don't remember Madison getting any goal line carries or anything like that. And
Yeah,
he
I
didn't,
mean,
no
uh,
special plays or anything. It's just a few carries here and there.
Dalvin Cook, he's um like I don't know like the correct word, but I feel like he's a potential value like within the first round even, because there's room to grow from his ADP. He could pass guys like Derrick Henry, who we just talked about. He could pass like some of these like receivers. I mean, I know that Diggs and Adams like played great, but if you're gonna get on offense with Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins playing great, and this opportunity, there's room to grow from his late first round NAP.
Agreed. I was getting him in the middle of the first and very happy about it. Um, yeah, I mean, 25 opportunities a game on a high scoring offense. I mean, they put up against a team that's supposed to be a good defense on paper this year, and they put up 23 points against them, and they looked able to move the ball pretty nicely against them all game. So, um, Vikings,
Oh wow.
they're going to be a force this year, I think.
Yes, sir.
A couple more games to hit on. Chiefs and Cardinals.
All right, let's see it.
Complete
So
domination over here.
yeah, Pat Mahomes with 5 touchdowns, not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 touchdowns. He spreads the wealth around. Juju gets 8 targets. Travis Kelsey 9 targets. McCole Harmon 6 targets. Clyde Edwards-Helaire catches 2 touchdowns. It's business as usual for Travis Kelsey. Must start auto locked higher than one. I have a pretty strong take as to him versus Mark Andrews now. After seeing it again, I want Kelsey all day for the sixth straight year. Juju, I think he's the clear two. He was getting fed early and often. It kind of dwindled off as the game went out of hand. But I feel like he's going to be the number two. CEH, he was first in line and he gets 2 touchdowns. Pacheco looks good on his, I believe, 12 carries, but it was mostly in garbage time. Hollywood Brown gets there in garbage time. James Conner gets there in the only time the game is close at the very start of it. And that's about all I have to say. Besides this Greg Dortch guy, who's that from Wake Forest?
Yeah, it was like someone was like, "Go pick him up," and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't, I don't think it's worth it." Um, I don't know. Like the way this team looked, pretty sad as a
yeah,
whole. I mean, playing again a free agent, not a free agent wide receiver, but a newly acquired wide receiver in Marquise Brown, and then a bunch of Jags. Um, no Rondale Moore, I think, really hurt this team, and they kind of didn't get to have anything explosive or gadgety, and they kind of had to go pretty basic, and they probably got pretty pedestrian, like the Broncos did, and
yeah.
got predictable.
Cliff Kingsbury, fake analytics genius guru. He's a subpar coach in my opinion. Um, I'm still excited about a guy like Marquise Brown. I feel like he has all kinds of upside, and he still gets there by scoring. But a pretty forgettable, a pretty forgettable performance by most of these players on the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think this is one that what you want to take away is the usage. Where do the opportunities go? And 16 for Connor, leads the way. And I think that maybe Dortch was just a product of them being behind so much and them throwing the ball,
Yeah,
needing to throw the ball as much as they did. But Benjamin got in for 4 carries and he got 4 targets, so getting close to 10 opportunities in the game. Uh, it's not entirely Connor's backfield, and if he's not scoring touchdowns, he did score a touchdown again because he was like a magnet for them.
yeah,
Um, but let's if we can ever get a game without James Conner scoring a touchdown, we'll see his floor.
yeah. It's really easy to say fade James Conner, but it's hard to fade him when he never has a bad game. So when he has a bad game, I'll be the first one to say, hey, here we go. But I mean, he's a must start until further notice. As I've been saying for the past year, you know.
For sure, you got to start Connor. I mean, the Cardinals are going to be in a lot of these games where they're either going to be they got up big on a team who can score and they're going to have to keep their foot down, or they're going to be playing from behind and they show that they'll dump it off to Connor. So I mean, he's a safe play with a high floor
He's
and
a
a high
very uninspiring, great running back for fantasy.
yeah. He's not explosive, but he's
Yeah,
got great opportunity on a team who's going to score a lot. So
he's in the same mold of I think you were saying Leonard Fournette, which makes sense to me. Um, yeah, both guys that when I'm pressing draft, I'm closing my eyes, but I'm gonna read the benefits every week. So
yeah, yep, the unsexy pick in my opinion, but they always get it done.
hmm
Um, Last game before the Monday night game, the Bucks and Cowboys.
Bucks and Cowboys. Julio
So
had a nice catch.
Julio had that bomb catch. He can still play. He only had 5 targets. Evans only had 7, so they spread the ball around quite a bit. Godwin leaves with a hamstring, which they believe is not serious. But they've been downplaying his injury concerns this whole time. Like, oh, he's coming back from an ACL. He's already out on the practice field and all this stuff, and like rushing him back. Like,
Right.
I think that they need to pump the brakes on Chris Godwin and just let the guy, get there. And maybe he's the one who's pressing them, and they need to, tell him to pump his own brakes, whatever.
They got
Slow
left
the
foots.
slow the guy down, please. Just get him back at 100%. Forget about the 75% Godwin. And just as we were discussing, Leonard Fournette getting all the opportunities on this team, it's just like an efficiently run offense with Tom Brady, and he trusts Leonard Fournette the most. He's going to be out there the most. He's going to be getting a bunch of opportunities. Rashad White was trying to make an appearance, but I just, I'm going to find it hard for the rookie to find his way on the field with Tom Brady, and at least until halfway through the season, and he can develop some trust in him.
Yeah. I'm still bullish on holding Rashad White if it doesn't mean clogging your bench,
I
but
agree.
I mean Leonard Fournette has a clear stranglehold of his backfield. I mean they get rid of Rojo. He has 21 carries. Nobody else has more than 3. Um, it's gonna be the Lenny show. It's gonna be the Mike Evans show. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, I mean it's kind of been the same thing for a couple of years now.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a lot of this with Fournette and Evans until one of them gets hurt and someone else will have to step up. I agree with the holding of Rashad White. I mean, like I just said, if Fournette goes down, he could see some massive opportunity, and we know that he is a pass catching specialist, which would benefit Brady and that whole team and their style, to a T.
Speaking of pass catching specialists, we have C.D. Lamb who catches 2 of said passes on 11 targets. Um, what do we make of that? Which is really the only question that we need to answer on the Cowboys, outside of the running backs. Um,
From what I
cause
from what I saw, Prescott looked terrible. He
yeah,
was
he was not good.
his accuracy was horrendous. So I mean, that's why you're going to have lines like this. Um, Cooper Rush came in after Prescott with a thumb injury and was not much better.
But
I
man,
think it was just kind
Prescott
of
was bad.
ugly everywhere for the Cowboys there.
Yeah,
Zeke only had 10 rushing attempts because they were down so much. Um, I wasn't a fan of drafting Zeke, haven't been since his rookie year, and yeah, nothing's going to change there.
yeah,
Pollard, I mean, he's out there getting looks, so that's what you want. But we would like to see more than 8 attempts, eight
yeah. Not
opportunities.
yeah, not very promising. I mean, and Dalton Schultz is one guy that you can be optimistic about. Um,
Schultz is,
he's
yes.
he's gonna get funnel targets. He gets 9 here, brings in 7 of them for 62 yards. Noah Brown stumbles into 9 targets. Um, is that repeatable? I don't know. Do I really care? No. He's the third option at best on the Cowboys. Um, Jalen Tolbert is the guy, if anything, but he didn't get anything in this game.
So
So
Tolbert was a healthy scratch,
yeah,
which shows you that he's got to be like the wide receiver 5 or something at this point. Um, so he's a drop until further notice. Noah Brown, if you're hurting, you could pick him up and hope that this team continues to need to throw the ball. But if they're starting their backup in Cooper Rush, you got to expect them to lean on the running game, which is just going to be ugly, until they start to give Pollard more carries than they give Zeke, which probably won't happen because Jerry Jones would blow a gasket.
and let's be
And
honest. We're so the NFL has had a long history, and it's gonna have a long history after the Cowboys, this current roster, is done playing. But
mhm.
we're never, ever, ever gonna hear Cooper Rush throws a touchdown to Noah Brown. Like that's not gonna happen, no matter how long the NFL exists. That's that's not gonna happen. So yeah, if Cooper Rush is playing, just know that it's a fact of the universe. We're not gonna hear that.
I love it.
So yeah.
So yeah, you can start Schultz, you can start Lamb, but I would, Lamb's going to be far from hitting his ceiling anytime soon, unless we hear of a trade in the next couple days.
Man, and CD Lamb is still like I can't help but always be overweight on him because he's so damn talented and dynamic with the ball in his hands. But it feels like he's a perpetual underperformer at this point in his career, which isn't a bad thing because he's still really young. But it's like he's like the Paul George of the NFL, where like the idea of Paul George is better than Paul George. Like the idea of CD Lamb, like the idea of this elite young talent on a good offense that throws a lot is
Mm,
better than he actually is. Um, so yeah,
okay, I love that analogy.
yeah.
uh, so let me ask you this to end it. If you're like your fantasy trade for quarterback that the Cowboys make tomorrow, who would it be?
Oh man, if they're trading for a quarterback,
Yeah,
man, see that's just so hard to be put on the spot. Like,
I'll give you mine. I'll give you mine.
okay, let's
All
hear it.
right. To me, the one that would make sense because they wouldn't be trading for a long-term starter is Gardner Minshew.
Oh really?
Yeah, but I don't know if they would be able to get him away from Philly. But in terms of the player, he could come in and be better than Rush and not cost as much as like Jimmy G or something.
That that's a far better answer than I would have thought of. That's a really good answer.
Wouldn't that be so sick though to see Minshew in Dallas? I
Yeah,
think
like
it would be like just like an ultimate player to be there in the spotlight like that.
it kind of man that
Wouldn't
does
that be
make
sick?
sense. And Jerry World,
Oh my God, Jerry would love him.
dude, what? Why hasn't that happened yet? What the hell? Well, here I'm gonna get back to you on that because I can't top Gardner like off my gnome. I'm gonna get back to you on that. But
I'll
you
let
know,
everybody out there stew on Gardner Minshew to the Cowboys.
right.
Put it out there in the Twitterverse.
But yeah, I mean, unless you have any more takes you wanna fire away, I think that's about all my thoughts on week one. You know.
No, I guess I just had like my parting words would be that it was week one, and I think in terms of week ones, it was rather pedestrian. We had a couple pretty big performances, but nothing like outlandish. It's like kind of what we expect. A couple blow up games, and they were from guys who have done it before. Um, let's keep our eyes peeled for the next 2 to 3 weeks, and I think we're going to see some more roles emerge and submerge. There was I don't know how many guys on the bottom of these game boxes that had one target, two targets. Pretty soon, those are just going to completely disappear, and those targets are going to funnel to the studs.
Yep.
Um, so just keep your eyes peeled and eat her to the ground, and let's be wheels up for Thursday. It's going to be a slobber knocker.
A
My
slobber
word,
knocker, huh?
my word. The Chargers and the Chiefs. It's going to
Yes,
be a high
sir.
scoring game. Can't wait.
We need some positive Mike Williams energy going into the universe.
Oh, please, Mikey Dubs,
Mikey
show up.
Dubs.
I know.
All
Yeah,
right.
I know he's mad about this past game. He's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder.
Well, here, I'm gonna I'm gonna say bye to the people, and I'm gonna stop recording.